I had the latest letter opened and was breathlessly skimming through the contents, pausing and allowing my eye to repeat a passage when the writer seemed to be almost suffering from love and pleading his case. And so overwhelming was his desire to be near her, my aunt. And then, for the first time, there were direct references to the physical expression of love, their consummation, so I was completely enveloped in the reading when suddenly from downstairs Rachel called to me, the signal that Aunt Jean had returned. I went from being transfixed to terrified in a single instant. Just an instant might be enough, said Dr. Enright. In an instant. My hands were shaking so badly I could not put the letter back in its envelope. I nearly tore it in my haste. Clumsy, clumsy hands, and my heart beating with a holy terror. Would Aunt Jean hear the music when I opened the box? Finally, I got it done. Placed the letters back in the box, arranged the nightgowns, closed the drawer, flew out of the room, and raced down the stairs to find Rachel pointing at me and howling with laughter. You should have seen yourself, she shouted, and then, seeing my face turn from panic to rage, she bolted through the hall and out the screen door. I ran after her, intent on paying her back. She had gotten me all right, and I would somehow even the score. I wasn't thinking, only running, desperate for revenge, and I never saw or heard the snake by the side of the path. All I knew was the shock when it struck me, and looking down at it as it bit me again, because it could not free its jaws from my bare foot as I was stepping on it. Somehow it did get free, and it slithered off into the taller grass of the field by the path. I must have been screaming because Rachel came back to me, and I fainted before she could... Let me stop you here for a moment, Miss Clark, said Dr. Enright. He walked along a row of desks, lost in thought. We do want to fill our stories with startling incidents, that's true, but we also want to be selective about it. It seems to me that in this story, which was moving along so smoothly, the introduction of the snake is overdoing it, and by a mile, I might add. It takes us completely away from the focus, which is the two young girls and the letters. But that's what happened, Dr. Enright, said Lisa Clark. The idea of combining the secret, faintly illicit, initiation into the mysteries of sex with a rattlesnake bite is just too much. That's what I'm trying to say, said Dr. Enright. We're looking for the right touch here, and you've given us a sledgehammer. What should I have done? Well, it's not really for me to say. It's your story. You might have the one girl, Rachel, pull her trick, and because of it, have her mother discover their little game. But this really happened, Dr. Enright. A snake really did bite me. Well, that's neither here nor there as far as shaping the story is concerned. That's my point, Miss Clark. I'm sorry a snake bit you, but it's my opinion that the snake has no place in this story. Symbolically, it's just too much weight. Freud would be rolling over in his grave if he could hear this. I was just trying to write about what happened. My psychology class is studying phobias, and the book said you have to confront your fears, and I thought I'd write about this, to confront it and all. The snake is why I wrote the story. That may be fine for your psychology class, Miss Clark, although I shudder to think how they will interpret this. There's nothing to interpret, Lisa Clark said. I was bitten by a snake. Then I got up and walked on it, my foot, back to the house, which is the worst thing you can do. I fainted again before they could get me to the hospital. My foot was so swollen it looked like a balloon on the end of my leg. But for our purposes here, I think your story would be better if you left the snake out, Dr. Enright said. Life is such a mess, It's our job, I suppose you could say, to tidy it up a bit, to give it order and meaning. Also, you write in order to discover your story. It's not always best to start out with preconceived notion, like this story is about a snake. What you're saying, said Lisa Clark, is don't get tied to the actual events. Right, not necessarily. They can be a springboard for the imagination, but they can also gum it up. You know what they say about truth being stranger than fiction. There's only so much weight that a story can bear. Everything can't go in. That's the difference between life and art, or one of them. Selection, order, form. I like what you have up to that point. I suggest you think it over and try another ending. Something other than having a snake pop out. Good Lord. The class laughed. All right, I'll try, said Lisa Clark. What if, when she's chasing her cousin, she pricks her finger on a rose thorn, said John Norton. I don't believe this story needs any pricks, said Dr. Enright. The class laughed. What if she gets a paper cut while she's putting the letter back in the envelope and leaves some blood on the letter, said Michael Taylor. A spot of blood. That's a thought, said Dr. Enright. That's got possibilities. Because, although what they're doing seems harmless enough, discovery could constitute a terrible betrayal. And that's just exactly the kind of thing that makes for a good story. Innocence running headlong into guilt. The bell rang, ending the class. We'll discuss it further next time, said Dr. Enright. Hey, Lisa, said John Norton. I like the snake. You would, said Dr. Enright. What was it like when it bit you, Amy Downer said. Lisa Clark shuddered. Gross, awful. I couldn't put it into words. They were walking out of the room. Did it hurt, said Amy Downer. What I want to know, said Keith Moore, is did her aunt ever marry that guy or what? Yeah, said John Norton. Hey, Lisa, what was in those letters? As if you didn't know, said Keith Moore. Maybe he doesn't, said Amy Downer, and everybody laughed. What if the snake bites her and she dies, said Terry Wiley. Then I couldn't tell the story, Lisa said. Right, so you put it in the third person. The snake bites her and she dies, because of the fruit of knowledge, the loss of innocence. Those letters were like the apple, forbidden fruit. Mr. Wiley, said Dr. Enright, this is a short story, not Genesis. I don't know, said Terry Wiley. I think I'm beginning to like that snake.